Good evening and welcome to Northampton Candidate Night. This evening we're hosted by the Northampton Business Association, and this is the 2022 Candidates Night. My name is Bill Kibbe and I'm a resident here in town. I'm also a business owner and a real estate agent, and I'm really excited about what's going to happen tonight. So let's start with, let me tell you, I'm on the board of the Northampton Business Association. Next week, of course, we'll be voting, and something just happened here, on a number of important topics, as well as the candidates we are electing to serve us, and many of them are here tonight. We'll meet some of the candidates for the contested races tonight, and I hope you will all take time to vote in next week's election. Please understand, with the schedule of the school spring vacations this year, some of the candidates have informed us that they could not attend. We do, however, really appreciate all those who made an extra effort to be here tonight. The Northampton Business Association believes strongly in a working relationship between the people of Northampton and the elected and government officials and the business community. Besides promoting our local businesses, we strive to be a voice for the concerns of the businesses in our community and to our local government. Tonight, our goal is to give our residents the opportunity to learn more about the candidates running for local office. The ground rules for tonight are as follows. No wrestling. No. Okay. Each candidate in the contested races will have the opportunity to make a 1-minute opening statement. We will then move to questions from the audience. For those questions, please stand up and we will bring a mic to you. You notice there's no stand in front today. State your name and where you live. Please keep your questions brief and succinct and addressed to all of the candidates. Each person will get one question, so make sure it's a good one. As we have received questions prior to the event and are allowing questions to come in by phone, we will try to get it to as many as we can within the allotted time. As members of the community, if you'd like to call in with your question, the same rules apply, and the phone number would be 603-758-1447, and that will not be at the bottom of your TV screen. So, all right, candidates. Once we begin, start by saying your name and why you are running. You will have the opportunity to answer the questions in a 1-minute or less response. We will cap the overall period for audience questions, including those that come in on the phone, for 20 minutes per race. Once questions are completed, we will allow each candidate to make an optional 2-minute or less closing statement. Respectfully, I will be strictly enforcing the time limits with help from Nancy Jane. I will give a tap on the podium. No, I won't. I will be having Nancy Jane hold up her yellow card when you have 15 seconds left and a red card when you're done. If you continue on, I will cut you off. All right. Is that clear? Good? All right. So we will start today as follows with the supervisor of the checklist. And we have 2 candidates tonight. If you'd like to come up forward, please. Pollyanna Ford and Jane Morse.
Bill,
Pollyanna.
Just the pledge of allegiance before we start.
Absolutely. I'd be glad to do it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Frank. All right, so as we go through here with the candidates, I'm not going to start from one side or the other. I will try to switch it up as we go from all the candidates. This time I'm going to start from the left. And Jane, I'm going to ask you to begin.
Okay, I have 1 minute, and what I want to say is the reason I'm running for this position again for a 6-year term is that I've really immensely enjoyed being part of this community and feel that it's been a great opportunity for myself and the people that I work with, Kevin Murphy and Joanne Knox. We're a great team. I feel that I've accomplished a lot in my 6 year in my tenure that We've organized, we've cleaned up the checklist. Part of our job is to maintain the integrity and the accuracy of the checklist. We have done that, I think, in an exemplary manner. We just finished a verification of the checklist this past year, which is a 10-year requirement by the Secretary of State. It is under one of the RSA laws that we maintain and do this. I know my challenger, Ms. Ford, was quite surprised that we eliminated 741 voters because that was something that she felt was not, it was not appropriate to do that. Why did we not change those voters out prior to? And there is a very good reason. I wish I had more time to explain. This is our election law book. It is over 400 pages. Not all of it, thankfully, it pertains to the supervisor, but much of it does, and we are very beholden to very strict laws on whether or not we can remove a voter from the checklist. So
Thank you,
I just
Jane.
wanted to challenge that statement that she had published in the New Hampshire Business Association, that it wasn't accurate.
Thank you, Jane. All right, I don't mean to be rude, but I will try to enforce it so we continue to go on. So we're going to ask Pollyanna, our next candidate, to go ahead.
So my name is Pollyanna Ford, as we've already said. About a year ago, I realized I hadn't been paying attention to what was going on in our town at all. I was voting for people that I was barely knew. I was voting for issues that I wasn't really fully aware of, and so I decided to pay more attention. And in that process, as Jane pointed out, I did start digging into the voter checklist, which I will say that I had absolutely no idea that your job even existed before that. What I did make the statement of is it was shocking. I did find over 700 people on the list for our last major election that no longer lived in Northampton. And so this did upset me, and I dug in, and I have learned a lot in the process. I want to learn more. I think that there's more that can be done within the RSAs that are already on the books. I think that we need some new ideas on how to do the job better. This was not intended to be a dig against anyone. I actually think a lot of the problems are on the state level, whom I have spoken to often. And I've also spoken to Jane, and I appreciate all the questions that I asked and the answers that you gave me.
Very good. Well, thank you both. All right, so at this time, we will now entertain questions. If there is any questions, please stand up, and we will bring a mic to you. I'd ask you not to be bashful.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Hillier. I live at 3 Glendale Road, and I thank you folks and the other candidates who are putting themselves forward, and particularly being here tonight. For many years, I was also unaware of the existence of the checklist. And I remember Bill Besh and town moderator speaking of this particular service as being not a town service, but a sentence. 6 years of 6 years of real drudgery. And having had a friend on it for the past decade, I heard a lot of that firsthand. Nothing beyond what should be discussed. I mean, there's nothing, any personal stuff, but just in terms of the process, and it's very involved. Pollyanna, I welcome you to get involved if you have some concerns. I still am amazed that anybody would want to be on this enough to want to run. So I'll ask just a couple of quick questions of each of you. Given the tenor of the nation.
Let me interrupt you for a second. I'm going to ask you to ask one question to the both of them.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
Thank you. The tenor of the nation over the past couple of years about voters' rights and who gets the vote, who doesn't. I'm very concerned about the business with voting machines. I'd like to ask each of you to speak about your feelings about the use of our voting machines here in town, and would you in any way want to change that? Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. All right, Pollyanna, I'm going to let you go first on this one.
I also am concerned. I think it's extreme. I've heard the whole hand vote, paper vote thought go around. I think realistically that sounds absolutely impossible. I think that the town has a difficult time getting people to volunteer as it is on a regular voting day. However, I do think that I would like the machines to be updated. I think they're old, and again, I think there's, technology has advanced, and I think that we need to do that. I don't know what that looks like. Jane may know better about that, but there has been problems.
All right, thank you.
All right, my turn?
Yes, Jane?
Okay. I do not get involved in the voting counting machines, of course, but I know that just 2 days ago, Bobby Burns, our town moderator, and Sue Buchanan were testing them. They do that to make sure they run the ballots through them, to make sure that they're accurate. They actually have ballots that they fill out themselves, fake ballots, and they run those through and they count them to make sure that they are accurate. I think to do a hand count in Northampton would be challenge enough. It would be an all-night affair. It would be very difficult to find volunteers to be willing to do that. I think it would be too much of a challenge, and I do think that voting machines, maybe they could be updated if need be, but I know that they are thoroughly tested and examined before they are brought to the election day. So, I think we have to have confidence in the election we have. I just showed you the election law booklet. It is very precise in every manner you can imagine, every detail. Every RSA covers the integrity and the appropriate procedures for elections. So I think we should all feel very comfortable. No one in this town, no one in this state is denied the right to vote. We make sure of that. There are ways that if somebody
Okay.
comes in without a voter ID or,
Thank you, Jane.
right.
Your time is up.
okay.
Thank you. All right, thank you for that question, Jim. Are there any other questions?
Am I allowed to add anything at all? If it's no?
We are not,
No? Okay.
no, we were not doing that.
Okay.
You just had one response.
First time.
You will have that's okay, you will have 2 minutes at the end.
Breaking the rules already.
That's okay, you'll have 2 minutes at the end to give an optional
okay.
statement if you'd like to do that, and that would be appropriate time.
Okay.
to do
Actually,
that.
all right.
Any other questions? All right, so we will go, again, we will go to closing statements then on this one. And Pollyanna, I'm going to give you a chance to do that. So you have an optional 2 minutes, you can pass if you want.
No, oh no.
Okay.
Again, I am absolutely appalled at myself for not being aware of the job that these supervisors of the checklist are doing. It's a huge job, and it's so important. And I really want an opportunity to dig into this. And quite frankly, if I don't win, Jane, I am here to help. I am in this.
Thank you.
I really would like to encourage, I guess, the community of Northampton to get more involved, to be aware of who you're voting for, be aware of where you stand on the issues, and be a champion for that. I want our community to be a town where all voices are heard. And it's really difficult to sit up here. It's really difficult to sometimes have conversations that are uncomfortable. But I really want to encourage people to step outside their box. This is very outside my comfort zone. Again, and I just want to, voting is very important. The voter checklist is our first line of defense for a fair vote. And that list has to be, in my opinion, accurate every time we vote. The state of New Hampshire only requires a 10-year deep clean, they call it, but there are other ways in between that 10-year to do the cleaning. Excuse me, and I think that we just need to utilize that more. And I did want to comment, the other problem with the hand voting, if I understand it correctly, is that the state of New Hampshire has we have our own constitution, and in that constitution it states that every vote has to be counted by midnight. So to have the amount of people to count paper ballots would be very difficult. I'm up for the challenge, but I don't know how many people would. I'm sorry, I'm like getting the hiccups while I'm up here. I think I'm gonna stop before I hiccup
All
in
right,
the mic.
15 seconds.
I think I'm good.
All right, Jane. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much, Pollyanna.
Yes.
I would just like to close by saying that really I feel that we have done our utmost in maintaining a very accurate checklist. Now, Pollyanna, I think, doesn't quite understand this position, and I think Jeff was completely right in that it's very comprehensive. There are a lot of components to this position in order to maintain that accuracy and integrity of the voter checklist. We remove voters all the time. The state notifies us of deaths of people who are moving within the state. Unfortunately, there's not a great deal of reciprocity between other states to notify us. If somebody moves to Wyoming and they don't tell us, we don't know, and we can't remove them. And that's how they develop the 700 on the verification of the checklist at the end of the 10-year period. But we remove constantly. I just removed 7 people the other day. 4 people had died, 3 had moved out. So it is an ongoing process. And I feel that the checklist that we just printed the other day for this election is as accurate as it can be. We have about 3,651 voters now, and we actually, one thing I do want to mention, which is very positive, we've just had 5 training podcasts since the beginning of the year to update us on different RSA changes throughout the Secretary of State's office, and beginning July 1, there will be and I want to make sure I get the name of this correct, a national change of address system that they are developing as of July 1st. Now, that was not explaining exactly what is involved, but this way, if we know that that person moved to Wyoming, that state has to notify us. That person can then be removed immediately. And that's how we tailor our checklist constantly. It's always in flux. It's never the same twice. So I feel that the integrity of our checklist is actually impeccable. Yeah, we do make mistakes occasionally, but it's so rare because we double-check ourselves constantly. And there are reports that we can check at the end of an election to make sure that everybody who voted was counted. I mean, it's very, this is 400 pages of what we do.
All right, well, thank you. Let's thank our 2 candidates. All right, so these were your candidates for the supervisor of the checklist. It is a 6-year term. It's a very long term.
The longest in the state.
Yes. All right, I will remind the candidates, I know sometimes you can get a little dry up here. We do have some water in the back of the room if you'd like to grab a water before you come up so you feel you can speak clearly. That would be an option. All right, next we're going to have the candidates for the Budget Committee come up here. They are 1-year terms, and there's 2 candidates, and at this time I'd ask the candidates to come forward. Well, there was 2 candidates. One is Charlie Gallant and Andrew Rauchi. Do we have either one of them here?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so noted. So there will be no statements from them. There will be no questions for them. And those are your 2 candidates. So we are going to move forward to the Budget Committee for the 3-year term. And we have 3 candidates for that. Or actually, excuse me, 4. I stand corrected. So I invite the candidates that are here to come to the front of the room. All right, so we're going to still have the same form. We were notified that some of the people would not be here tonight based on, we believe, because of the school vacation schedules. If there's other reasons they chose not to attend, again, these are your candidates, and this is one of the best forums for you to be here, so we always encourage people to come here, okay? So we will start the same way as we would any other one, and we'll start with, you get to do your introduction, tell you.
Perfect. Well, thank you. First, I'd like to thank the Northampton Business Association and all of you for being here. I live at 94 Exeter Road. I've been there for the last 15 years, and I'm running for Budget Committee because I value our community, the resources, and the services that our town provides. I've had the privilege to serve on the school board for the last 6 years, which means 6 budgets delivered to the Budget Committee. The last 2 years, I've had the opportunity to be the school board representative on the Budget Committee, so I understand the process. I'm not afraid to make tough decisions or ask tough questions, but I believe you can also be respectful and considerate while doing that. I'm willing to listen and understand other people's opinions, and I start with thinking that they have positive intent and knowing that. So I think this is all going to be about balancing and protecting taxpayers' dollars, investing in our employees, and delivering services that continue to make our community a great one.
All right, thanks, Tom. All right, so this time we will allow you to, if there's any questions, please remember that if you have a question, stand up, say your name and where you're from. All right. Any pressing questions? On the phone?
No.
Okay. Yes, I can read the names of the candidates. So Lisa Gallagher, George Chauncey, and Brian Good. Is that how you say it, Good? Yes. Okay. I would love to recognize them here and ask them questions as well, but unfortunately. All right, so following the same format, we'll give you, if you have an optional statement you'd like to make?
Yeah,
or anything else you want to add?
Very quickly. I'm so impressed the fact that we have great candidates, and they may not all be here tonight, but the fact that we've got contested races is wonderful. When I first ran for school board, I was a write-in candidate. So the participation that we're seeing this year, I think, is fantastic. So thank you. I'm not running with an agenda. I don't have any position that I'm looking for. I'm looking to come to it with an open mind, to be accessible to the community and listen. I commit to being prepared. So, I will be prepared for those meetings. I'll do the work ahead of time. I'll ask questions, and I'll work hard. So with that, I would like to ask you for your support and your vote next Tuesday on March 8th. But whoever you vote for is fantastic, and I appreciate the opportunity tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that was the Budget Committee for the 3-year term, and we will next move to the Zoning Board. We have 2 candidates for the Zoning Board. I ask you to come up right now.
There's actually 3 total candidates.
I'm sorry, my count is off. You're right. Dennis Williams, Robin Reed, and Larry Miller. Can't count tonight. All right, so it looks like we do have 2 candidates here tonight. So we will start out with the same format, where I will not start any one particular end of the table, and we'll ask them to give their opening statement. They will watch for the cards. The yellow card means you have 15 seconds left. The red card means please stop. Okay? All right, we're going to start with Dennis Williams tonight.
Good evening. Again, I thank the Northampton Business Association for putting this together for us. My name is Dennis Williams, been a resident of the town for about 35 years. I have served as alternate on board the zoning committee, the ZBA panel, many times sitting out there in the audience and waiting to be called upon in order to help one of our residents out. I believe in listening to our residents and also listening to our businesses that are looking to get certain things done in town. But I believe somewhere there's a fair point of in between of where we can settle and saving our wetlands and saving the various resources that we need in our town for its future. And at that, I like to shed a little bit of light on, every one of the cases that are brought before us, and look forward to your vote.
All right. Thank you, Dennis. Larry?
So my name is Larry Miller. I live on Mill Road. Been a resident here since 1990. I've served on the Budget Committee since I think it was a total of 18 years, and on the Select Board for 10 years. So I do have some experience in politics and how the town functions. I've never served on the ZBA. I was the proponent and a signature of the article that passed making the zoning board elected. Before it was appointed. And at that time, I felt the select board at that time and before was abusing by appointing people that really weren't trying to enforce the zoning ordinance. So people that come before the ZBA are looking for relief from some aspect of the zoning ordinance. And there are criteria to apply, to listen to those and apply changes that may or may not be appropriate, but you have to listen to every case impartially, and that sometimes is difficult. But we do have a zoning ordinance. It is important to know that if you are on the ZBA, you should believe in zoning, and understanding that zoning ordinance isn't perfect, nor is.
All right, Larry, I'm going to ask you to hold it at that point, and we can add any additional comments in your closing statement. All right, at this time, I'd ask anyone who is here or on the phone, if you'd like to ask a question, to please stand up. And we will bring the microphone to you. We do have one question in the room. Please state your name, where you're from, and
My name is Amy Margolis, and I'm in Northampton on Woodland Road. I was wondering, and I'm not sure if it covers on the zoning or whatever, but we had a forest across the street from the vet, the Northampton vet, and they tore it down and put a...
let me, can you bring your microphone a little closer so we can all hear you?
Okay, can you hear me now?
It's
Yes?
really the mask.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so we had a forest across the street from the vet, Northampton vet, and it was torn down totally to put the storage unit thing. And we have a lot of storage units in Northampton, and I'm thinking they could have built it behind the forest. They could have made it much more aesthetic, and it looks really not what it could have been if people thought about it. What do you want to see? This or the forest that you had, a really nice one, before? So I was wondering, who put that through?
All right, thank you for your question. I think, Larry, I'm going to ask you to start with that question.
You would have to go to the planning board, go back to that case. The ZBA would have nothing to do with that unless there was a relief sought to the ZBA. I don't know if there was. But that would start with the landowner going to the planning board.
All right. Dennis, did you want to comment?
Yeah, that comes back to the planning board, and I mean, that does come back to the planning board. Is that, if that was put before, if the planning board then shifted that over to us as the ZBA, we would have to judge on that and comment on that and decide if it's a case that we want to handle or not, or kick that back again to the planning. And it almost sounds like a ping pong game, I understand. But with that said, that realize that when somebody purchases land, I was sitting on one case that was down next to the farm down here on Atlantic Avenue at one time, and the lady was very upset that her view was blocked as far as the nice horse farm goes and so on, and out across the field. And the people that had purchased it had some trees planted in order to help her out, but then she said, well, you put up a barrier for me, but now I can't see the beautiful horses that are running in the field. It comes down to the place of, did that person pay for that view or not? I mean, so unfortunately, the person that at the end of the day spends the money, we've got to take them into consideration too. I mean, I always want to take the public into consideration of who owns land or who lives next door to this, but in a commercial zone, which that is a commercial zone, then we need to look at that and, you know, make a case depending upon what's put in front of us there.
All right, Dennis, I'm going to ask you to stop there, and I thank you both for your comments. All right, are there any other questions? On the phone?
Nope.
Okay. All right, thank you, thank you. I'm going to give Dennis the first opportunity for an optional closing statement, if you like.
I believe in very much in as a position of being on the ZBA in order, as I just kind of stated beforehand, of being able to equally listen to our residents, also being able to listen to our businesses to allow us to grow in our town. But although we are a very historical community, and I like to keep the history of our community in front of us, whether it be the town offices that we have, that's the small stone building that's part historical society and part town clerk at this point in time. But I think those are all keys to what we look forward to in living in Northampton and the things that we want to keep. And so I close at that, asking for your vote on next Tuesday, the 8th, and thank you very much for listening.
All right, thank you, Dennis. All right, Larry?
I'd like to serve on the zoning board. I've never done that. It's another way for me to serve the town. Bear in mind that the ZBA listens to applicants that come before it. It doesn't have anything to do with making the zoning ordinance. That's the planning board's job, which is a much bigger job. So really, to comment about applicants or whether they're businesses or citizens, you really don't, you can't say, I want to promote business. No, you want to listen to the applicants that come before you, period, and apply the law to them without bias for any reason. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's thank our candidates, please. The other, it was Robin Reed? Yes. All right, so we're moving to our last position. Discussion is for the planning board. I'm going to invite the candidates up. We only have one candidate here tonight. It's Scott Baker. We also have Lori Atella and Shep Kroner, who are in the contested race. But at this time, please come forward. Okay, we will do the same thing here, and I'm going to start at the one end of the table.
Okay.
Go ahead, Scott.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Scott Baker. I'm running for the planning board. I live off of Mill Road, and I also own a little train station across the street. I am running for the planning board for the benefit of my family. I have two younger daughters, one age 1 and the other age 3, and I and my family expect to live in the town of Northampton for an extended period of time. And I personally, and I know many people share the same feeling, that they're not necessarily pleased with the direction that the town is going as it relates to planning matters. And I share that sentiment. And that sentiment is echoed from an event that I had this past summer. I was driving down Atlantic Avenue. My 2-year-old daughter at the time was in the back seat, and a gentleman, excuse me, gentleman came from Woodland, didn't stop at the stop sign, and I hit him. Just ran right into him because he failed to yield at the stop sign. My daughter was in the back. We had to call the fire department, police department, but unfortunately, our cell phones didn't work from that intersection. And as we all know, I've got a 5-minute story for a 1-minute time. But we weren't able to make any calls. We weren't able to make any calls because we all know that the cell phone coverage in this town is horrible. That is one of many anecdotes that I'd like to share with you this evening. Unfortunately, I don't have the time, but
thank you, Scott.
I'll
I'm
save
going to stop you there to be fair in the same way we've done with all the other candidates. Sure. At this time, I would ask if there's any questions for people to stand. Please keep in mind, I ask you to stand up, state your name, and ask one succinct question, should you have it. And usually, as we've said, address it to all the people that are running. So if there's any questions, please stand up.
I have 2, but I'll go last.
All right, thank you. All right, sir, and so you get to go first.
Okay, thank you, first of all, Scott, for being here at the new NHBA Candidates Forum. I really appreciate it. So one question that I have for you tonight is actually on behalf of a resident. This is from Frank Ferraro. To the planning board candidates, what specifically do you propose to help alleviate the shortage of affordable housing in Northampton while preserving Route 1 for commercial development?
good question. I know it's a hot topic these days. Personally, I am disappointed collectively with the situation where our town's teachers, our firemen, our policemen have gotten to the point where they literally cannot afford to live in this town. So if you're a public servant, and even the town administrator and everyone else, if you don't own a home here, if you haven't already bought, you cannot afford to live in the town of Northampton on your salary. I think that we need to be very open-minded with respect to looking at the alternatives. What can we do here? This is not a black and white issue. This is not something where you say, I'm for it or against it. I think it's inappropriate to have a position of that. But instead, I think we've got to look at the options. What are the best alternatives? How can we preserve this town as we like it and the benefits, and preserve our natural resources, make certain that we're being thoughtful, make certain that this is something that we want not only today, tomorrow, but 20, 30, 40 years down the road, because we know whatever we build today is going to be around for a while.
Thank you, Scott.
Anybody else want to go before I go?
Are there any other questions before Kirsten reads hers? Kirsten, I invite you to
Okay.
read the second question.
So my next question, Kirsten Larson Schultz, I'm a resident, but this question is actually on behalf of several business owners that contacted us. During the COVID pandemic, restaurant owners were allowed to get town approval for outdoor dining through a simplified outdoor dining permit process. In 2021, Governor Sununu signed a bill into law to allow the temporary expansion of state-level licensing for outdoor dining through 2023. However, Northampton's temporary permitting process ended in November of 2021. Do you believe that restaurants should be allowed to continue the simplified outdoor dining permitting process through the town through the remainder of 2022 and 2023 to match that new bill signed by the governor? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. You would like to comment on that, Scott?
Yes.
Would you like to elaborate? You have a minute.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not aware of any specific reason why we wouldn't allow that to happen. I'm not aware of any restaurants in town that poses a health issue, fire issue, safety issue. If there was such, I think we ought to look at that and address it and have a conversation with the business owner to figure out what can we do to remediate those potential threats or causes of concern. But for the most part, yes, I think as a general rule, we should allow it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, last chance for questions in the room? And on the phone?
Nope, not today.
All right. All right, so with that, I'm going to ask you, Scott, if you'd like to provide an optional last statement here.
Sure. So the primary reason that I'm running is I want to provide the townspeople an alternative. I want to provide an alternative to the individuals that have been running and the individuals that have been sitting on the board historically. We haven't had much change. We haven't had much turnover in the planning board. I, as a resident, as a father, as a business owner, as a commercial property owner, I am concerned about the direction that this town is going. You know, I mentioned not being able to use my cell phone at the intersection when I have an accident with my child. The same would be the case if we're at the beach. The same would be the case if we were standing outside of this building. It's an area that I think needs focus. Another area that I think needs focus is the pollution that we have at the Northampton State Beach. Once again, having children, to have my toddler and my infant on the beach putting sand in their mouth, and then to read that there's E. coli in the water on the beach, and we can't swim in the water, and at the end of the day, we really shouldn't be sitting in the sand, and I definitely don't want my daughters putting their hands in their mouth. There's so many things like this. You know, it was referenced the storage area here on Atlantic Avenue. I don't think there's anybody in town that's really happy that that's there. And I understand why the planning board approved that, because they didn't really have the authority to say no. But at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, what was it about our town's ordinance that it was determined that the highest and best use of that land was to put on another storage area? And at the end of the day, we really have to look at the nature of all the bylaws and the ordinances within the town and say, are we really trying to attract the people that we want, or are we just ending up with the people that can skirt the rules or find the loopholes that allows something like that to happen? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Scott. All right, our candidate for, one of the candidates for the planning board, so it was Scott Baker again, Lori Attella, and Shep Kroner. And thank you very much. So I just want to thank you on behalf of the Northampton Business Association for coming out tonight and for asking questions and being here for our candidates, and I encourage you to vote. And have a great evening. Thank you.